Hello guys, I hope everybody is doing good. Today I'm going to be taking one session on basically how to prepare for your last 1 month when we are giving the SCR exam, which is your sustainability and climate risk exam. Okay. Now a lot of students are going for their April exam, and this plan would also follow for the last 1 month of the upcoming October exam. So please remember that for the exam preparation. Okay. Now before I enter into the details of how to prepare, I'm just giving you a brief about the exam structure and the date. Okay. So there is an exam in April 2026 and October 2026, and these are the exam windows. Okay. And now the exam can also be given in your center, which is in-person testing, or you can also do an online proctoring. Now from my experience, what I would suggest you is that always prefer a in-person exam at the center, because if tomorrow there is any technical issue or any problem when you're giving online proctoring, then it is not feasible for you to communicate to GAR or to inform about the issue in a real-time basis. So it's always preferred to go and give the exam at the center. Okay. Now suppose you have prepared, you've started preparing for the exam, and you realize that what is the exam structure, right? So exam is basically a 4-hour exam. Okay, and 90 questions. Now previously, okay, the exam questions were around 80 multiple choice questions, no negative marking. Okay, and there is no level 1, level 2. It's only a single exam. Once you complete the exam, you will complete the SCR certification program. Okay, 90 questions, and out of these 90 questions, 2 case studies will come, okay, from the exam. Now what are the syllabus that is there? Okay, I'm just giving you the brief about the syllabus because students who are going for the October exam, they should know about it. Okay, so there are roughly around 10 chapters. Previously it was only 8 chapters, then they added 2 new chapters, okay, into the exam. And on the slide now you can see the weightage, or basically the number of questions you can expect. Now when you go through that, you would realize that this chapter is having the slightly highest amount of weightage, and the last 3 chapters are very low in terms of the weightage. Okay, the number of questions that you can expect in the actual exam. Okay, now so from the exam perspective, okay, what I have identified is there are certain topics which are slightly tough. So when you go to the chapter number 6 and chapter number 7, okay, because it is slightly connected with your modeling aspect, so a lot of students find that topic challenging. Okay, now what is effectively happening is that when you go through the material, okay, the initial first 5 chapters are not talking anything about the modeling, and suddenly you enter into the 6th chapter and 7th chapter, which goes into the detail that how do you do the climate risk modeling. Okay, theoretical, it's primarily theoretical, but yes, you need to have that understanding of how the model works, what are the basic parts of the model, and that will be covered in this chapter. Okay, further, this chapter, which is the first chapter, foundation of climate change. Now what I have seen in while teaching students and while interacting with the students, this is a chapter which a lot of people underestimate. Okay, so you need to have conceptual understanding of why we are reading these stuffs in that chapter, because when you read the first chapter, what I have observed is that people find it very easy, and because they find it very easy, they basically end up neglecting that chapter. So once they have read that chapter, they might not come back to that chapter again and again. And the last 2 chapters, which are the 2 new chapters being added, we have seen that they are explicitly asking case studies from these chapters. So make sure that you read that chapter from the perspective of case study. So they might connect the case study of this chapter with some other chapter also. Okay, so they might ask a case study which has an introduction or some base of chapter number 10 and chapter number 5 also. So remember that. Further, okay, some important tips. Now over here, a lot of people, when they're reading the curriculum of SCR, they ignore the required reading. So there is one section of required reading which is available on the GAR website. So if you go and do Google required reading for SCR exam, you'll find that list on their portal itself. Okay, so this is the list. Okay, so for chapter number 2, you will find 1 required reading, 1 more, and then chapter number 3 likewise. Now out of all of this, you should be walking through those required reading once before the exam, but out of all of those, there is 1 required reading which is this, the climate risk measurement. This is very, very important, because when you go through that TCFD recommendation page 52 to 54, you will find that there is some level of formulas which are there, and in the exam, even though when you read the book there is no formula, but they might test you, and they have historically been testing on these formulas which you see in this required reading of chapter number 6. So do not miss that. So it is basically the weighted average carbon intensity, weighted average insurance, All of these, there are a lot of formulas which you have to remember for the exam. Hence, I'm marking this as star. Again, please go through the official website of GARB, and there you'll find the list, and there you'll find the material also, okay, for the required reading. What should be your overall strategy for preparing in the last 1 month? Okay, exact 30 days before the exam. What generally I suggest is that put the first 10 days to do your final revision for the exam. Okay, one full revision for the exam, and then you start giving mocks. Okay, now when you're giving mocks, okay, mock, you have to make sure that there is one sample paper from the GARB which is provided to all the students. You have to make sure that those sample papers are done properly, okay, and do the analysis of the sample paper also very thoroughly. Which chapter, which the question is from which chapter, which concept, whether I made any mistake, what is the learning from that. Also look at the options properly. Why am I eliminating a particular option? Why am I choosing a particular option? All of this becomes very important. And also do 2 separate mocks from wherever you're preparing from. So for example, if you are a Fintelligents student, I generally provide around 4 mocks. So at least 2 mocks is what you're supposed to do. Okay. Suppose you do not get much time and you have completed only 3 mocks. The remaining 2 mocks, you just go through it quickly. Okay. Look at the question, look at the answer and complete it. Okay. So in the next 15 days, okay, in the next 15 days, my recommendation would be to solve as many mock papers and give it as an actual exam. If possible, give the exam on the same time when you have scheduled your actual exam. For example, if my actual exam is from 9 a.m., I will give the mocks also at 9 a.m. Okay, and then keep the last 5 days for entire GARB book reading. Okay, just keep on reading the material 2-3 times in that last 5 days, and then go for the actual exam. Okay, final reading before the exam date is very, very crucial, because that's where you remember a lot of formulas, if there is any. You remember a lot of critical concepts. Okay, because I'll be talking about important concepts from each chapter in this book, okay, for the upcoming exam. Let us see what is the important concept from the first chapter. Okay, now energy balance has been tested in the past exam. Killing curve has also been tested in the past exam. Albedo effect. So I have given you the list, but again, from that list also, I'm explicitly talking about few things which I have heard a lot about from the students who have given the exam, correct? So carbon sequestration, then you have geoengineering, all of these terms or concepts related to it have been tested in the actual exam. Okay. Further, when you go to the second chapter, okay, now in this, the natural capital and greenwashing, both of them are very, very important. Now, life cycle assessment has been tested sometime, but greenwashing has been there in the exam discussion points. A lot of students have got that. Okay, so please do not ignore that. Okay, natural capital, greenwashing, and also one more, this nature-based solution. Please make sure that you are reading those concepts properly. Go to the next chapter. Okay, over here, climate risk. So basically, types of climate risk, the physical risk and transitional risk. All of these, conceptual wise, you should be able to pick it up. Okay. Further, the concept of just, transition and standard. The first 3 pointers which I have highlighted are very, very important, and you will find some case studies, some questions coming around that concept also. Okay. Further, the next chapter, which is primarily focusing on the overall change in the curriculum, or basically overall the how the regulation has changed. So Paris Agreement, cap and trade scheme, very, very important, and the case study on Bank of England is very, very important. Do not ignore that for your actual exam. Green and sustainable finance. Okay, over here, the green and ESG indices and ICMA green bond principles, you should definitely make sure that you are comfortable with. Then there is operational risk, credit risk. So climate risk measurement and management, which I basically said is slightly tougher. Over here, you will find temperature score, climate risk VAR. All of these topics are very, very important. And there is one more chapter, the next one, where we have also talked about the IPCC scenarios, okay, and they are getting tested in the exam. For example, the RCPs and SSPs, okay, and sector decarbonization pathway is also important from the exam perspective. This has been tested in the past exams also. Next is net zero, slightly small chapter. Okay, generally, even if you do not perform well in this chapter, you still clear the exam. Okay, now over here, the production based and consumption based accounting methodology, very, very important. Then you have double materiality, which is also being tested in the exams in the past. So I'm just All the topics are important, but within that I'm just highlighting few which I have realized that they are important. There are the last two chapters, which are the newly addition chapters. Now over here, the LEAP framework and water risk assessment. In the past exam on water risk assessment, they have been asking case studies also. Okay, so do not ignore that. Transition planning and carbon reporting. Now over here, the equity share approach and the control approach is very, very important. Okay, key principles of good transition planning, again an important concept which are getting tested in the exam. So I've just covered all the 10 chapters, highlighting the important concepts and the topic. Okay, now when you are preparing, okay, now a lot of people are still solving, or when you're doing mock papers, you should follow some framework on how to do a solving in a better manner. For example, when you're solving mock papers, okay, and while solving, I might get variety of questions. For example, you might get certain questions which you did not understand. So mark it in a peculiar way. For example, I'm marking it as cross. Okay, there might be certain questions which is time consuming, so mark it slightly different. So you should be able to give marking to particular question, because when you go and do the analysis, you would know why you have made a mistake in this particular question. Suppose there was a question which was easy but it was very lengthy, and you had done it very fast, or you just chose the option. Now when you're doing the analysis, you know that okay, even though the concept was easy, I was not able to give much time, and the main problem was that the question was lengthy. So I know that on the actual day of the exam, whether I have to pick this question or not. Okay, there might be certain questions which are slightly tricky, okay, and there will be certain questions which are very easy. So what you should ideally be doing is, you should be bifurcating when you're solving the mock also. While solving, just quickly make a note which question is easy, which question is difficult, which question. So when you complete the mock and when you do the analysis, you have that list available, which will give you a very good understanding that out of those 90 questions, how many questions you had confidence on, how many questions you just made a calculated guess, how many questions were very tough for you. Okay, so please do that and use this framework for solving your mocks. Okay, how do we help? So we also train for SCR exam. So we have video lectures available which covers the basics, fundamental of the overall concepts of the SCR curriculum. Okay, we also ask students to watch the video, then read. So there's an active reading that you're supposed to do, because when you are going to go for the exam, you would actually rely on that book, textbook, to read and prepare for the exam. Okay, so you have to always come back to the textbook, watch the video, read, and come back to that textbook. Then there is a concept of validation. Now, why are we talking about validation over here? See, the concept is very simple. Okay, we are basically trying to check that whether you have read properly, whether you've understood properly. So go and solve the question bank. So for each chapter, we have given around 5 quizzes. Okay, roughly 20 questions, 5 quizzes. So I generally tell people that when you read the concept for the first time, or read the chapter for the first time, solve the quiz number 1 and 2 for that chapter. Do it for all the 10 chapters. Then come back and do the first revision and solve the third quiz. Likewise, you have to complete the third quiz for all 10. Similarly, do the second revision, do the fourth quiz. You have to complete in that manner, so that you're not just skipping any chapter. Secondly, you're also covering all the question bank also in a particular fashion, so that it gives you a lot of confidence. By the time you're done with third reading, fourth reading of the book, you will have very good confidence on the exam. Okay, and also finally give a full length mock paper, which is very, very important, because you have to perform there in a particular time. So you need to understand whether you'll be able to sit for 4 hours. Second, how exactly you're going to choose a particular answer in that 2 minute, less than 2 minute time. Likewise, so you have to execute full length mocks, and I generally suggest 3 mocks, which will give you a better clarity in terms of the actual exam. Okay, so make sure that you are good with that. And few success stories and a lot of interviews that I have posted about SCR exam success. You can watch it on our YouTube channel. Okay, plus I also do a lot of industry interaction about what is happening in the industry with respect to skills, with respect to jobs, what are the opportunities that are available. So all of this interaction is also available on my YouTube channel. So definitely watch it and give you a very good perspective of different roles available in the market. Further, if you have any query, you can put it as a comment section. And if you are very new to our channel, definitely subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share this video to your friend who is preparing for the SCR exam. Okay, so thank you very much. I hope this video will help you in your preparation for the exam. In case you still have any query, any message, you can reach us on this WhatsApp number. Me and my team will definitely help you towards the exam preparation. Okay, so thank you very much for joining, and I hope this helps you in the preparation for the exam. So thank you.